Hi, my name is Christina Mittermeier, and I am the president of the International League of Conservation Photographers. The International League of Conservation Photographers is a consortium of some of the best nature photographers in the world who are also engaged in conservation activities. We have about 85 photographers from all over the world who work with us on joint projects, but we're also doing their own projects in conservation. We created the ILCP with a unique purpose of providing a platform where all of these photographers could speak with a common voice about the things that concern them, and also as a fundraising platform so that we can raise money for our own projects and then the projects that we do together. Our main audience is that of the people who make the decisions and the people who fund the projects. So we are trying to create turnkey communications tools that are not intended for the public at large, but for very specific audiences. What we're trying to do with photography is to change the course of the political winds. We're trying to influence the way decisions are made. When the Annenberg Space for Photography approached me to guest curate this show, the idea was that there's photographers who work in incredibly extreme conditions, and the reason they do it is because they care so deeply about those places. So I was asked to help bring a little bit of that environmental conservation thinking into the show. The way we went about picking the photographers was a collaborative effort with Annenberg, and we wanted to find 4 very, very different approaches to photography. So we picked people who specialize on wildlife photography and others who do the fine print landscape work. And then we wanted to bring somebody that was not even working with biodiversity. The couple, Stephen and Donna Diomera, they actually don't work in conservation, but their work is very impressive and it's very geared towards education. Biodiversity is not a brand of detergent. Biodiversity is actually the sum total of life on Earth. It's all the species that we share the planet with. It's all the little pieces that we need to maintain if we want to stay on this planet. It was an extreme challenge to curate this exhibit. It was thousands of images that were submitted by the photographers, and then we went and looked at them, and then we looked at the space, and we tried to match the perfect wall and the perfect situation with what the photographer was trying to say. And when you curate an exhibit, you have to listen to the artist's statement, to what the photographer wants to say, as much as to what I want to convey. So it's a back and forth, it's a collaboration, and in the end, you hope that it's a tour across somebody's mind and what they're trying to present as their artistic statement. It's not a membership organization, it's a fellowship. So it's a peer nominated process where your fellow photographers deem it appropriate for you to become one of the fellows. The people that work with us are at the top of their game. They are very well-known photographers. They have established their reputation. They have a whole creative process, and they have an audience that listens to them. So in all likelihood, they also have photographers who would like to be just like them, and we can hope to infect those photographers with a conservation bug. The best advice that I can give him is the advice that I followed myself when I started my career in photography, and that is to start locally. We would all love to go work in Antarctica or in the Congo, but the truth is that there's plenty of conservation issues in our own backyard. So if you start training yourself in storytelling, in how to convey these stories, in how to approach the people who can actually make these decisions, the organizations who can actually make things happen, you can get very, very far in just understanding how the whole process works. So find the local issue, find the local conservation or environmental group that's working there, and don't present them with a budget. Just go offer your services and your skills and your talent, and little by little build that relationship. Before you know it, you're going to have a line in the budget as well, and you're going to become an integral part of the communications creative process. You know, for me, the thing that I kept thinking as I was looking at these images and talking to the photographers about the sacrifices, both personal and professional, that they've made to make these images is, why would anybody want to risk their life or their, you know, we always say that photography is a craft where you leave behind neglected children and abandoned spouses because you're gone all the time, enduring terrible conditions, and why would anybody want to do that? And the truth is that these people do it because they care so deeply about these places. This is not a joyride. This is not a daredevil adventure. This is not an adrenaline rush. They do it because they would like to infect others with the same passion and sense of urgency. So for me, I hope that the people who visit this amazing space get a little bit of that. We're not trying to see who's the most courageous here. We're trying to show who's the most passionate for our beautiful planet. It's a wonderful thing to see a brand new space that's created just for photography, and a space that's embraced not just the beautiful craft of the printed image, but also the new innovations, the digital imagery. I'm going to say that 3/4 of the exhibit in this space actually happens on a digital screen. And the screens, of course, are tremendous quality, so the work that's showcased is not suffering. I think a lot of photographers are concerned with how images are displayed in a digital medium. Here, the Annenberg Space of Photography is at the cutting edge of that technology. And so instead of showing whatever you can accommodate in these walls, you can expand the thinking and the narrative and the storytelling. You can explore it as far as you want. You can have a digital show that goes, hours and hours. As photographers, we have a certain footprint. I think for those who are engaged in conservation, we can offset our footprint through our collaborations and contributions. But the manufacturing industry, they have a lot of ground to cover when it comes to becoming really green. And I know that in the old days we were concerned with the way that silver is extracted and mined and so forth, and the whole photographic process was very environmentally, I'm not going to say severe, but I'm going to say it had an environmental footprint. Today, the manufacturing of all this gear that is so disposable has a huge footprint as well. So I would like to see from the manufacturers a lot of a bigger effort in terms of how do we recycle these things. At least for us who work in conservation, every time you try to fight a new mine or a new energy project, we have to think about where our equipment ends up. And there's so much that we could do with it. I personally like to donate my equipment to photographers who are just beginning or who live in far-off places. We could donate it to schools and to children who are interested in photography. But for Christ's sakes, don't throw it in the landfill. Now, I don't think that we can achieve conservation outcomes if we don't invest at a significant level in communicating these messages. So I just want to congratulate the Annenberg Space of Photography for recognizing that critical need and for giving us a space and a platform to talk about these important issues that are important to all of us.